Hey, what's happening, folks? Welcome to the studentloanjustice.org. Oh, it's backwards. Live stream for Friday, July 8th? Oh, July 9th. Oops. My name is Alan Collins. Just trying to get things together here. Hope everybody had a good week. A lot is going on right now, folks. I almost don't know how to package it all up in a nice spoon-fed way, but a lot is going on. Hope you've noticed. First of all, maybe the good news. The most promising things that we've seen in the past few weeks are the appointment of some pro-student advocates, kind of, by the Biden administration. So that would be people like Richard Cordray, who was head of CFPB, Toby Merrill, and another guy named James Caval, who was deputy undersecretary under Obama Biden, and who at least tells me that he was arguing for the return of bankruptcy protections when he was last with the Obama Biden administration. So, we don't trust anybody in Washington, D.C. further than we can bowl them, but these are pretty promising appointments. If nothing else, I think it bodes pretty well that Toby Merrill is now, I think, chief counsel now for Department of Education. So that bodes pretty well for that memo that we're supposedly going to be seeing soon about whether or not the president actually does have the power, and the secretary, to cancel student loans by executive order. But let me back up a little bit. If you have any questions or comments, throw them out. If I can see them, I will respond to them. But let's back up for just a minute. We've been doing this for 16 years now. We fought very moderately for only the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans for the first 16 years of our existence. But folks, we've done a lot of research over the years, and we've been observing this lending system very keenly. And I can tell you that this lending system is now catastrophically failed. Say it with me. Catastrophically failed. Even before this pandemic, 80% of all borrowers were never going to be able to repay their loans. They were either in default, forbearance, deferment, or otherwise not able to pay, and that's like 50% or higher, or they were paying and their balance was going up. So 80%. So the upshot there is that we were probably looking at a default rate of 75 or 80%, right? That's a huge number, right? The default rate for subprime home mortgages was like 20%. So we're like 4 times higher than the subprime home mortgage default rate. I don't know what you call that, but I call that catastrophically failed. So guys, look, we're in a pandemic. Almost nobody is paying on their federal student loans. Only about half the people, maybe even less, were paying before the pandemic. If you really think that almost anyone is going to happily resume, or even unhappily resume, paying on their student loans whenever this repayment suspension abates, you're wrong. This lending system is in a death spiral. There is no saving it. If you are shoveling your money, probably a lot of very good money after bad, or maybe just good money after more good money, and your loan balance was going up and you were just digging yourself deeper, well, you need to rethink that thought. This lending system is gone. It's vanishing into a mist of illegitimacy. We continue to fight for bankruptcy protections. That remains the core of this problem. And something that Joe Biden, by the way, was obligated to do on day one as president. He did not do that. He said he was adopting Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy agenda. Elizabeth Warren's bankruptcy agenda included the return of bankruptcy protections by executive order on day one. He could have done it. He could have ordered his administration and their contractors to stop opposing bankruptcy filers on student loans in court, bankruptcy court. He didn't do that. So, folks, we need to stop feeding this beast. Why would you pay another dime on your federal student loans if you were never going to be able to repay your loans? 4 out of 5 people are in exactly the same boat. Probably a lot more now that we've lost all these jobs, etc. in the pandemic. Why would you throw more money after this when it's only going to continue for the rest of your life? That's ridiculous. You need to think very seriously about joining the 30 plus million people who will not ever pay another dime on their federal student loans. So come on, don't feed the beast. That only helps it. You know, what we do really matters, guys. This group here is where the petition started, calling for the president to cancel student loans by executive order. We were, by and large, a voice in the wilderness for many months until Elizabeth Warren and Chuck Schumer appropriated our call, championed our call, I'd say. Now, their plan is crap. It just is. Up to $50,000 is just ridiculous. It's nonsense. But folks, this bankruptcy bit is even more important than loan cancellation. I kid you not. In fact, in order for us to get any kind of meaningful loan cancellation, probably a necessary precondition for that is the return of bankruptcy protections to the loans. Because up to $50,000 could mean anything, and it will mean nothing if the people in Washington, D.C. have anything to say about it. You know, we've seen even the good guys, the Richard Cordrays, the Toby Merrills, the James Kowal, do what they do. And some of their colleagues, in fact, went to great lengths to kill the push for bankruptcy protections to student loans. So there's a big danger out there, guys, that we're going to see some nonsense loan cancellation where nobody gets it, almost nobody gets it, as a cheap substitute for the return of bankruptcy protections. None of that is acceptable. This lending system is done. It's a national threat. So guys, that gets back to you sitting there. Think very carefully about your situation and think very carefully about what's best for the country. To feed this tyrannical, nationally threatening, weaponized, unconstitutional, viciously predatory lending system with your hard-earned money, or starving it, not feeding the beast. So I'm going to rattle off 5 quick tips, maybe 6. I don't know. I don't keep count. 5 or 6 quick tips. And by the way, if you have any questions or comments, I'll be happy to read them on air if I can see them. Lisa Staples, for example, hey Lisa, says, it's called crooked as hell, that's what, LOL. Right, this lending system should have been put in on the scrap heap of failed U.S. policy many years ago. It's done, it's finished, it's toast. There is no saving it. There should be no saving it. So to that end, I, for one, am destroying my student loan papers. I threw an ultimatum down to Joe Biden. I said, either you return bankruptcy to student loans by July 4th, by executive order, or I'm going to burn my student loans and urge everybody to do the same. And so here I am, guys. Think about destroying your student loan papers. Think about making a video out of it. I, for one, I'm probably going to buy a really big bottle rocket and tape my student loan documents to it and shoot it 1,000 feet in the air. It's come to that, guys. It truly has come to that. After 16 years of being extremely patient, extremely good-faithed, thorough, honest, and diligent, there's nothing else, guys. It's done. This lending system's done. I, for one, will never, ever, ever pay another dime on my student loans. So think about throwing down that same gauntlet. I know a lot of people already have, and maybe they don't want to say so on Facebook, but whatever. So obviously, the next reaction that I get to all that kind of thing is people go, what if they garnish my wages? What if they do this? What if they do that? Well, here's some things that you can do. Number one, if your loans are not in default, they legally cannot default your loans if you make a payment of any kind every 269 days. It's only after 270 days of non-payment that they can legally put your loan into default. So if you're not in default, you might want to think about sending $1 every 269 days in. It's no solution, but at least it keeps your loans out of default. So that's something. Number two, think about becoming, instead of an employee, think about ways that you can change your lifestyle, change your professional standing. Think about maybe becoming a 1099 contractor, where instead of being an employee, you are a contractor, where your former employer pays you, and you are now a sole proprietor, and you are a contractor. Other people say, oh, I don't want to get my tax income garnished. Well, if you must continue as your status as an employee, two things. Number one, file exempt so that you owe taxes at the end of the year rather than being owed. That way they can't steal your tax return. Number two, when the collection goons come calling, have a talk. Hopefully you work for a relatively small business where you can have good relationships with the boss and say, look, boss, these people that are asking for this wage garnishment, they're not the Department of Education. They are a 2-bit collection company. They are a boiler room of low-life, pond scum sucking, feeding parasites. Don't do the wage garnishment. Demand that they produce for you a court order or the equivalent in order to go with the wage garnishment. If your employer does that, my employer did it many years ago, they will go away, almost certainly. They will go down to an easier target on the list. It's just one way to bulletproof yourself. And really think about it, guys. Another thing that you can do is literally start your own business. Be your own boss. Do you really need that job that bad? Are you that dependent on it that you can't go out and strike out on your own and figure out a way to not be dependent on some huge corporation or whatever? Think about things like that. And I can tell you that living sort of half off the grid, it's not bad. I've been doing it for many years. It's not that bad. It's actually very freeing, but to each his own. Everybody can make their own decisions. Think of other ways that you can be bulletproofing yourselves. Keeping your assets out of your name, like the title to your house. Give it to somebody that you trust, or put it in a blind trust, or whatever. Bulletproof yourself, because guys, this lending system is a national threat, and at this point in time, in the death spiral of this federal student loan program, where 80% of everybody were never going to be able to pay even before the pandemic. It is not only unwise, because truly, I think these loans will be canceled. It's the obvious thing to do. At a minimum, I think we've got a very good shot at getting bankruptcy protections returned. So at this point in time, I think it's not only unwise to be throwing money at this lending system, your hard-earned money, I think it is unpatriotic. And that second part, I feel maybe even more strongly than that first part. It is but for the fact that so many idiots who came before us allowed themselves to be abused at the hands of this unconstitutional lending system that we are now in the spot that we are in. If the generation before us had simply said, fuck this, I'm not paying into this ridiculous lending scam. I don't care if it is the federal government. I'm not paying. If they would have done that, we wouldn't be here today. So stand up. Don't live your life walking with your tail between your legs, scared of everything and anything. Come on. God didn't put you on this earth to be a little earthworm. Grow a pair. Have some pride in yourself. And not only that, have some patriotism. This is a very important fight that we're fighting. We are fighting not only for ourselves, but for tens or hundreds of millions of people who are going to follow in our footsteps. So what else? What other bulletproofing things can you do? I mean, just think out of the box. Wage garnishment, we've covered that. Putting your assets somewhere else, we've covered that. Just in general, not having anything to take. That's what it's going to take. And guys, I think more than anything, in concert with stopping payment on your loans, you need to fight with us. That energy that you were spending to make money to pay this ridiculous loan off, spend some of that energy helping us fight. We need you. This stuff is not happening in a vacuum. But for this group and our petition that we started last March, I don't think they would be talking about canceling loans by executive order today. But for this group, I kind of don't think they would be even talking about bankruptcy. So what you do, what we do here in this group really matters. You know, getting those 2 reports, those 2 research papers that we did out to the media. We got some great press in Georgia recently, by the way. The first report is about all the states, southern red states, Republican states, that owe more in student loan debt than their entire state budget. The citizens of Georgia need to know about that. Well, we just got a really good piece published in the Atlanta Journal-Constitution. That helps. But that's only one thing. You know, there's a million news organizations in Georgia that we need to get reporting the fact that their people owe more than their entire state budget in student loan debt. CNN is in Atlanta, so maybe they would take a look. Help us. We need your help. You know, we are the ambassadors. If we don't get news organizations to report on what I just said, that report, and I will paste that report in the comments below, it's not going to get out. It's just not. The people of Georgia need to know that the state budget is $48 billion, which is a ton of money, but the people of Georgia owe $82 billion. That's like almost double, not quite double, but it's like 175%, 69% of their state budget. That is just absolutely a batshit crazy statistic. Like, when the governor of Georgia finally learns that, that will be a spit coffee out of your whatever moment. You know what I'm saying? And same with all Republicans in Georgia. Their eyes will pop when they realize, particularly people in the state legislature and the governor, who they live and breathe the state budget. And that's a huge number to them. And most of them don't even know that the people of the state of Georgia owe far more than even the state budget in student loan debt. I'm telling you, folks. It's a very important statistic that we need to get out there. The second report that I will also paste below is the fact that this is an older person's problem. You know, we saw a piece in the Wall Street Journal the other day about this kid fresh out of film school from Columbia, $300,000 in debt. Well, you know what, guys? The highest balance borrowers by far, they aren't people like that kid. They are people over the age of 50 or even over the age of 35. They owe far more, and there are more of them also. There are more people over the age of 35 with student loans than under the age of 35. There are more people over the age of 50 with student loans than under the age of 25. So what's that telling you? Everything that the media the bad people in the media, our opposition, everything that they have been seeding in the zeitgeist about these entitled liberal young people who made bad decisions, that's all bullshit. It's all absolute bullshit. And the quicker that more people on this group start fighting with us to get the word out, to get the truth out, the quicker this problem will be solved. You know, if we can get even 1 or 2 Republican governors to stand up and say, President Biden, enough. I will not let my state be conquered and enslaved by this debt. The quicker we can make that happen, the quicker these loans are going to be done. You know, it's a very conservative thing to say, take this lending system to the bath and drown it in the tub. Well, any conservative that looks at the data that I've looked at very quickly comes to the same conclusion that I came to. So, but again, they will never know if we don't tell them. So getting those 2 reports, and there's a third report too. I wrote something specifically for conservatives. You know, we're a nonpartisan group, guys. If you're a Republican, you are very, very, very welcomed here. And if you're a Democrat, obviously, if you're libertarian, whatever you are, you're very welcomed here. We are a fiercely nonpartisan group. But we do pay attention to partisan politics. And partisan politics right now are that the Republicans are opposing us. And the Democrats, they say they are for us, although Biden is just an absolute creep. But yeah, guys, where the political battle is right now, some Republicans need to jump the fence. Once one does, many others will follow, because believe me, the stuff I said about Georgia, pretty much the same is true in Alabama, in Texas, in North and South Carolina, in Tennessee, in Indiana, in Ohio. Did I say Florida? These are huge states, and they are being absolutely wrecked by federal student loan debt. So it's not hard, but it takes some effort. So please help. Everybody has their own little connections to make. Maybe you live in one of those states. Maybe you are friends with a reporter at one of the stations. Stuff like that really matters. Getting the truth out and speaking out about it is just so important. If you sit there and wait and watch and worry in silence and expect that somebody else is going to pull your weight for you, or that the fine people in Washington, D.C. are going to come up with a solution, you're wrong. That's never happened that way. It never works that way. This is a fight. This is a battle. This is your battle. These are your student loans. This is your problem. We need you on this. So I've given you like 3 things that you can do, like this weekend. And I will even paste our email list to all of the news organizations in the country. Use that list. Tell them to report on either one of those 2 research papers, which I will paste below. Tell them to report on our petition. We here stand at the ready. You don't have to be interviewed. You don't have to put your name on anything. It's fine. That's fine. Just point them to us. We will do all the heavy lifting. We will answer all the tough questions. We love answering the tough questions. If Rush Limbaugh were still alive, I would love to go toe-to-toe with Rush Limbaugh. I would get him on our side. That's how strong our argument is, folks. And believe me, once we get a few Republicans, particularly Republican governors, people like Brian Kemp, people like Greg Abbott in Texas, people like Kay Ivey in Alabama, on and on and on, Bill Lee in Tennessee, on and on and on. Once we can get them seeing what we see and saying what we say, which is a very conservative thing to say, this problem goes away in a fortnight. So do that. I don't know what else I can say. I think I've said enough. I think I'm not going to repeat myself, but rewind this video. I know I talk pretty fast, but rewind this video. The stuff I'm saying is very simple. Please do that. Hey, John David Combs, how you doing, man? Unfortunately, I'm not sure that I can see all the comments coming through, but let me just see if I can dial in. I see one comment from somebody saying, I'm feeling so much anxiety over this. I'm back on medication. Well, the best medication I have found is fighting this battle. It feels good to spread the truth about this failed lending system. We are teaching people stuff that they don't know. These governors, they don't know this. The state legislators, they do not know this stuff. They need to know. It feels good to tell them. If they're an honest person, and most of them are, believe it or not, they will be glad to know this new information. They will not know this information unless you tell them this information. And that goes with reporters and producers and anybody you talk to about this. So don't over-medicate, please. And remember, guys, these are student loans we're talking about. These are not nuclear launch codes. This is just, there's an old adage that, well, actually, I made this up, but maybe somebody else said it. If you give a little government entity a toothpick of power, they will swing it around like a fucking bazooka or like a broadsword, like a mace. That's just kind of what happens when you give unchecked power to even the smallest governmental entity. Well, that's what's happened with this federal student loan program. It's now catastrophically failed. It's not your fault, but it's happening on your watch. So too bad, so sad, but that is the reality. So deal with that. The other reality is that Washington's not going to solve this thing. Lisa and others have asked me in the past, what's going on? What are they going to do? Well, they in Washington, D.C., they don't have a clue what to do. They have no idea what they are going to do. They don't know. That's where we come in. It is our job to tell them. Number 1, you must return bankruptcy protections to all student loans. Number 2, you must cancel all federal student loans by executive order. That's like the easiest thing in the world and the best way, the cheapest way to stimulate the economy. Because remember, the president can cancel these loans without needing one dime from Treasury and without adding one penny to the national debt. That's just so important. This is the lowest hanging fruit on the fiscal stimulus tree. So that's a no-brainer. But honestly, guys, that first thing, just getting bankruptcy rights back, I think that will probably be the domino that leads to the complete deletion of these loans and of this lending system. This lending system is way past gone. It's time to replace it with something better. And if we can get bankruptcy protections back, it will be overwhelmingly obvious that instead of forcing 25 million people into bankruptcy, probably better to just cancel the whole damn thing, start over again. You know, we just threw $7 trillion out to the country, all that stuff. Much of it, by the way, in the form of loans that don't need to be repaid. Remember the PPP loans? So $6-7 trillion, how many trillions we just threw out. All that stuff added to the national debt required money to be drawn from Treasury. Canceling student loans requires none of that. So we got this, guys, and you need to grow a pair. You need to grow some confidence. And just remember, if you ever pay another dollar back on your student loans, that is not only stupid, because almost nobody's going to, maybe 20% at most. It's also unpatriotic. Do not feed the beast. Stick with this group. We've been on the right track for the 16 years that we've been doing this. And the quicker that we can get, we've already got 1 million people on our petition. That's not nothing. Change.org/cancel student loans. If we can get 10 or 20 million people on that petition, that's game over also. So there's 1 million ways we can win this thing. But all of these million ways start with your efforts, you sitting there. These are your loans. This is your problem. Do not forget that, please. All right, I've said enough. Check back frequently, early, and often. Things are happening very quickly. Look down this group, both on this post and on this group. Very easy actions you can do. Join Twitter. I hate Twitter, but Twitter seems to be working. So do that. We have daily actions. We need you. You need us. We're stronger together. I know that's the cliche thing to say, but there is true strength in numbers, guys. And in many ways, we, you and me, we're all we've got. And the 1 million people on our petition, etc. And the 45 million people who have student loans, federal student loans, 38 million of them are screwed on their student loans. They need us. We need to find them. We are way stronger together. We can have this thing solved in a couple weeks once we grow to a size more appropriate to the size of this problem. So, all right, guys, I'll be back on Sunday. Depending on how things are going, as I said, things are happening so quickly right now that, I may be doing emergency live streams as appropriate. So we'll see. But you came to the right place. Glad you found us. Let's get ready. Roll up our sleeves and get this done. Good luck. Godspeed. And God bless everybody.